Are you truly, truly running a profitable and sustainable business? Or are you just operating a possibly very expensive hobby? I know you've heard this term over and over again. And many people do use it to serve their purpose for what they're trying to sell you. But it is a legitimate question and one that you should take seriously, especially if you want to build a profitable, sustainable, multi-figure business. So if you are wanting that, stick around, because today I have a very special guest with me on Your Business Edge, AMPLiFY Small Business Marketing Strategies. Join me in welcoming entrepreneur, attorney, and #1 best-selling author, concierge immigration, and business legal advisor, Lauren Cohen. Lauren is going to help you create a success-based foundation for your business. So are you ready to reach profitability the right way without wasting time, money, or effort? Let's find out how. Lauren, welcome to the show. I am so excited having you on as my guest today because I know that you've got some extremely valuable information to share with our followers. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Hi, Susan. Thank you, fellow Canadian.
Yes.
So that's where I'll start. So I'm originally from Toronto. I'm a lawyer still in Ontario. I've kept that forever and still practice. So I moved to the US. I became a citizen here in the US in 2012. And I operate a multinational business called eCounsel Inc. and actually two businesses, eCounsel Inc. and Scale Up Checkup. And I created a system recently that you're familiar with, which analyzes a business from 7 points and provides a systematic approach to filling gaps and giving a success-based foundation that you're talking about by making sure that the foundation is strong, sustainable, scalable, and that the business is ultimately saleable. So that's what I do. I'm licensed in the US and Canada. I am a #1 best-selling author. I have a specialization as well in franchising, which is a big deal these days, growing businesses. And we'll talk about licensing and copywriting and all of that kind of thing for the coaches, speakers, authors, and experts out there, which I know are many of your viewers, I'm sure.
They are, yes. We have a wide variety of people in the service industry and even, people who sell widgets. And so I know that it doesn't matter what type of industry or what type of business you have, the information that you're going to share today is for everybody, right? It's across the board. Yeah. So I can't wait to hear your 7 secrets that all entrepreneurs and small business owners need to know about in order to properly scale their business. So Lauren, let me start off by asking you, what do new business owners often ignore when they first start out that makes you really, really concerned about?
A lot of things. A lot of coaches, business owners, run amok of legal and compliance issues because they're running a business as a sole proprietor. Mm-hmm. And they think that's okay. And it is if you're running a hobby, like you said at the beginning. But if you're running a business, it's not okay. You are exposing your family and your life to potential liability for anything that your business does or doesn't do. And why do that? Why not separate yourself, like the separation of church and state, right? Why not separate yourself from your business? If you love your business and you treat it as a business, then you need to actually have a separate business entity. So there's 7 areas that I cover, but one of the most important foundational issues is looking at that structure, at that basic entity structure, to make sure that you've A, chosen correctly, and B, have the opportunity to scale from there. So there's 7 areas. They are funding and capitalization, business planning, which includes exit strategy, because way too many business owners do not start with the end in mind. And as you know from the seminar where we met, I always profess to begin with the end in mind. It's part of like the Bible, it's part of all of our, learning. And I serve as the GPS. So if we're going to be the GPS for a business, don't we have to have an end before we can create the navigation map, right? 3 is branding and marketing, which is where you come in, and filling all of those gaps and making sure that it's a cohesive branding strategy supported by a marketing plan that creates that brand and builds the brand. Legal and compliance, of course, that's my wheelhouse. Figuring out, are you legal? Do you have the right documents in place? What are your opportunities? Have you covered yourself? Have you protected your business and your family, of course? Financial and taxes. Well, you don't want the IRS or Revenue Canada to come after you because you haven't looked after your taxes properly or done your books properly. You need to speak with financial advisors to make sure maybe there's a trust available. Maybe you need a trust. All kinds of different options that are necessary to consider. Operations and systems and security is another one, that if you don't have systems, you can't lather, rinse, repeat. You can't keep building your business because you don't have systems and you're not systematized. And last but not least, insurance and licensing. And it's funny because I mentioned as we were getting on the call that I'm having this little hiccup, and it's an insurance hiccup that is not really my fault, but you have to deal with it. So are you properly covered? Do you have disability insurance? Is your business protected? Do you have an umbrella? Is that umbrella sufficient? Licensing, do you have the proper licenses in place? Occupational licenses, business licenses. There is just no shortage.
That is quite an extensive list, and I hope that it hasn't scared anybody off. But the reality is that we're running a business here, people.
Right.
You know, you're not running a hobby. If you are truly wanting to create that multi-six-figure income, you have to think about this as a proper business. Even if you are working out of your home, that doesn't make any difference in the matter.
Especially if you're working out of your home, because you've got nobody to cover your back and your home is now exposed.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's more prevalent now than ever. You know, there's a heck of a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners who work out of their home. I know I do. And
right, I do too. One of the things I wanted to mention is that I really am a strong proponent of. Okay, so I mentioned branding and marketing and referenced Susan. So one of the keys of what we do is that I'm not doing all 7 of those things. So I don't want anybody, oh my goodness, I am not a branding and marketing expert. I am not a financial expert. I'm not an accounting tax expert. You know, I'm not an insurance broker. But what I do is I uncover your exposed gaps. So we uncover the gaps and provide you with a plan to fill the gaps. And then bring in professionals like Susan to actually do what you need to do to get your branding up to speed, because we see that there's a gap or there's a disconnect. So my number one thing that I say every day, and I know you'll agree with me, stay in your lane. My 4 favorite words. Stay in your lane. I am not an expert in everything. Yeah. And if you don't, there's, as they used to say, there's no I in team, right? Mm-hmm. That before. Stay in your lane is just like the biggest thing. Just like I said when we started talking before we got on Zoom and you mentioned an expert in something, I said, great. I'd love to meet the expert in that, because I'm not an expert in everything. So I need experts that I can go to, and you don't want to just find them on the internet. You want to go to people that are vetted and certified, and we have a team of ambassadors, and I'm hoping you'll be one of them, Susan.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, great. Yeah, and that is such an important thing to mention and emphasize, is about us staying in our wheelhouse. You know, it'd be like if somebody, a client asked me, hey, Susan, you know, can you do books? And I go, yeah, you know, we do our own books. Oh, can you do my books for me? Like, that would be, no, I'm not a bookkeeper. I'll tell you.
I thought you meant publishing.
Oh, but yeah, no, yeah, that too. But no, I meant, you know, your actual ledger and all that kind of stuff, you know. So just because there's you can do it or you have the ability to do it, that doesn't mean that that is what your core competency is and what you should be doing, you know. Kind of stick to your wheelhouse. Otherwise you're diffusing yourself and you're not doing anybody any good. Can you kind of go back to your list there and just, you know, share some, you know, some important points about, you know, starting with the funding and capitalization? I think this is a big one, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, where we hear a lot, especially on social media, hey, everybody, how can I start up a business with a 0 budget? And, what do you say to that? And what do you say to the people who are serious about starting a business? And what are some tips that you can share about that area?
So first of all, funding and capitalization is probably the number one biggest thing that causes us to lose sleep at night as entrepreneurs, right? We're not worried about somebody suing us, even though we should be. We're not worried about being underinsured. We're worried about being undercapitalized and not having cash flow.
Yeah.
So I will tell you that you're not going to get funding if you don't have some infrastructure in place, unless you get it from friends and family. So there's several rounds of funding that you can go through. Always look for more than you need. That's one tip. I've been writing business plans for a very long time. And if I write a business plan for a company looking for $250,000, they're not going to get it. But if they're looking for $1 million, they have more of a chance. Why? Because you're looked at differently. You're looked at more as a serious business. It doesn't make perfect sense, but it is what it is. So what I say is I have funding partners that come in. For example, last night I had a call with a gentleman in Silicon Valley. He's developed a pretty cool product and he needs funding. He needs seed funding, which is the first round. Before you actually get angel funding, it's like your basic get me off the ground round of funding. Usually you bootstrap it yourself. So you get the funding in place. He needs some basic funding. He has a pitch deck, sort of, but he doesn't have a real business plan. But I made an introduction for him that may be able to get him some seed funding because he does have an entity and he does have some basic documentation in place. All of these 7 areas are intertwined, and you can't really have one without the other 6. Now, it doesn't mean that all of them are going to be at the same level all the time, but there's got to be some consideration of each of these 7 areas. I call it the 7-point inspection. So it's kind of like for a car, you do it, I think it's a 12-point inspection. And nobody would go without doing an inspection of your car and taking it in and getting your oil changed. Well, don't you want to do the same thing with your business? So we have to look at these 7 points, right? And you can't be compliant with the tax requirements if you're not compliant with your corporate requirements for your business. And if you're a sole proprietor, you're exposing all the other stuff. So it's everything it's like a step, right?
That makes total sense. And so then that leads, like, the capitalization and the funding part, you really do need to have that business plan in place too, really have a thorough understanding. Anybody who is going to invest in your business, they need to know that you've got a solid plan in place and that you have a solid understanding of how you're going to get them their money back, right? So can you share a little bit more about the business planning part?
I've been writing business plans for a really long time. It's one of my core competencies. I've written business plans for every type of business and every type of, for example, I write them for lots of Canadians seeking access to the US, lots of Americans seeking access to Canada, lots of trans-border stuff, and also a lot of venture capital business plans and people just looking to raise money. When you do a private placement memorandum, which is a securities offering to raise capital, you need a business plan to support that. So that's one of my specialties. So you can have, people say, well, how much is a business plan? Well, you can have a business plan as moderate as $2,500, but that's really more for internal purposes. If you need let's say in the US, there's a small business association loan. In Canada, I think it's a CDIC. So if you need a loan from certain entities, you need a business plan, but the business plan has to follow certain models. There's 9 elements of a perfect business plan. And again, I'm happy to share that. That's available free. We can give it as a download to your people after. The point is that the business planning process must include a mission, a vision, an exit strategy, and one of the most important things that people tend to overlook is the business plan needs a financial projections. And people think, oh, I'll just write some numbers. No, where are those numbers coming from? Where are your assumptions? If you're doing books, I don't do books, but I can look at a profit and loss statement with the best of them, and I know if the business is profitable. And you can't say that you're going to be 10 times value or whatever, just because you think that's what it is. You have to show where your work comes from. Just like in math, show your work, show your assumptions. Why did you come up with those numbers? We can work with you to just take what you've written and turn it into something that much higher of a level. So it will get funded and it will get noticed. And strategic partnerships and potential exits, it's all interconnected. Sorry, as you can see, I get a little impassioned.
I so appreciate your passion though about a business plan, because if you don't have a solid understanding of how you're going to make money in your business, then how do you know what you're supposed to do and create? Which totally leads to the next part of your 7-point system, was the branding and marketing, because that marketing plan should be in with the business plan as well, correct?
100%. You have to have a marketing plan. That's one of the 9. So a marketing plan, a sales strategy, your exit strategy, your management team, they're all covered in there. And one of the other things that I will mention, which could be part of your business plan, is I love nonprofits. I love nonprofits as a way to build and scale and grow your business. Think about how a nonprofit could benefit your business. And maybe a nonprofit might even be the right option for your main business. So it's still a separate and distinct entity and can really help you to make your imprint and have an impact on the people that you're trying to impact and build your brand.
Just wanted to let our audience know that I did a video just recently, and I'll put a link below for us, all about the elements of a marketing plan. Actually, there's a couple of videos that I've done where I've kind of gone into it's more the basics of it. This is, if you don't have any time and you don't really want to do it, at least do this. So it's kind of like the bare bones of what a marketing plan entails. And then I did a few other videos after that, going into more depth about identifying your target audience and what your brand positioning should be and all that kind of stuff. So I'll put those links below so you can reference those and really get more into detail about that branding and marketing. But Lauren, just how important is it to establish a brand and do marketing in coordinate with what your business plan is?
I think that people overlook the importance of the intersection between your brand and consistency and your foundation and consistency. So because your brand can only grow so far. So I built this business for a couple of reasons. The first of which is working with so many foreign nationals coming into the country that started a business and got a visa and then said, oh, well, now I have a visa, I don't need to do anything. And then it comes time for renewal and they don't have a business. Okay, so they end up packing their bags and going back to their home country. That's one. 2, business owners that were in a coaching program with me, spending upwards of $25,000 a year for a coach, which focuses a lot on branding and marketing, but they have no entity. So I would say 40% of them had nothing, no insurance, no entity, nothing. They're going bare. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. So people are so focused on branding and marketing, right? They spend tons and tons of money, but if they don't have that foundation, it's like building your dream home on a sinkhole. And eventually the sinkhole collapses and your home collapses right with it. So you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on branding and marketing, but if you don't have a strategy and you don't have the foundational elements in place and you don't have the coverages that you need and your gaps protected, your business is not bulletproof and you're exposed. And who is most guilty of this, and I hate to point fingers, but we know it, is coaches, speakers, authors, and experts, which is part of why I developed a program specifically for them. Because we're coaching, but we're coaching and we don't have our own house in order, our own ducks in a row. We're speaking, but we're speaking about stuff that we're not looking after ourselves. So I created a program because so many coaches, speakers, authors, and experts need some kind of a basic infrastructure in place, and potentially looking at, are they building courses? Do the courses need to be copyrighted? Do they have licensing agreements if they're having them resold? Do they have speaker agreements if they're running events? Do they have attendee agreements? All of this kind of thing is part of that program. Everybody's a coach, right?
Yeah.
But what's the qualification to be a coach?
Exactly. Yeah, and that is, you've honed in on something that is so super important. Like even when people come to me and say, hey, Susan, can you create me a logo and a website and all this kind of stuff? and if they don't have that business foundation in place, it's like they're jumping the gun. And what you said was it just so important. Like if you don't, even if from a smaller perspective, if you don't have a registered trademark with your logo, with your brand, your business name, then you have nothing. You are building a business on quicksand, because anybody could come along and take it from you, and who has got to that registration process before you have.
The challenge is that when you go to sell, ultimately you have to have an exit strategy, whether it's sale or legacy to your family, whatever it is, okay?
Yeah.
But when you go to sell, if you haven't protected those assets, you don't have assets to sell.
Right.
So that exactly what you're saying becomes magnified a million times, right? Everybody has ideas. It's the idea that gets to market first that counts.
For those of you who are watching this right now, tell us in the comment section, do you have an exit strategy right now in place? You already know exactly how you're going to leave your business. Are you going to sell it? I mean, there's all different kinds of ways of exiting your business, but let us know in the comment section. I'm really curious to hear who really has actually paid attention to that critical element of their business plan. I would love to hear from you. So what about the legal and compliance? Like you were talking about all of the different agreements and contracts and copywriting and trademarking. Is there anything else that people do?
So much.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and this is true in Canada and the US, is in Canada they're called minute books. In the US they're called record books. So what that is when you set up your company, there's this book you get. It's usually a binder and has a bunch of documents in it. One of them is a share register. One of them is minutes of your annual meetings, resolutions of the directors, banking resolutions, bylaws, all of this kind of thing. That book needs to be kept up to date. You won't pass due diligence on sale or potential investor or strategic partner if it's not up to date. Now, one of the beauties of this, and I will admit that I'm not 100% certain of this in Canada because I haven't looked at it, you can go back in time as long as you have everybody's sign off so that you can create that record book. So it doesn't have to be, if you haven't done it, do it when you're supposed to. But if you haven't, you're not going to be penalized by doing it now, as long as it's before sale, before strategic partner, before investor, before due diligence. Just setting up your entity is not enough. You need an agreement for whoever are the parties to that entity. That's going to help you if you're ever raising money. It's going to drive the boat, so to speak. Compliance issues are rampant. It's going to depend on which state or province or federally you're incorporated in, how those look. But they're going to play a role. And especially if you're doing business between Canada and the US or anywhere else globally, even bigger role.
Well, all I can say is that thank goodness there's people like you on this planet Earth to help people like me and our viewers, because even just hearing you, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. And I know that I know that the majority of people will be feeling overwhelmed with this burden of all of these things. It's not really a burden, but it's a necessary thing. But I don't think any one person can handle this all by themselves. And so This is where you can help out, right? And just kind of help be that guide, double check, make sure everything is being done in accordance to how it needs to be done so that they're safe and secure. So I highly encourage you as a viewer to go and check out Lauren and let her help you with this stuff. Don't feel like it's such a burden, something that you would rather just shove under the rug and ignore and not bother with, because it seems like a monumental thing to do.
We won't make it unmonumental. I don't really know how to say that word, but we'll make it surmountable. We're gonna take the pain out of this whole process for you. Yeah. We're gonna identify the gaps and then navigate the way to the solutions. And that's the key, because there's really nobody that does what I do, that holds your hand throughout the process, and looks under the hood and is there and says, okay, you need a letter of intent for this. Okay, you need that. Okay, you need this. Okay, did you look at this insurance? Okay, are you properly covered? What does your business plan say? Have you updated your business plan? Now you've added a new line of business. We have to do something about that. These are the things that I do as your strategic partner / trusted advisor.
Yeah.
So basically, when I come in and become a partner to your business, I help you grow your business without actually taking equity in your business. Yeah, so I really have your back. And when people talk about me, that's what they say. I look after them just like a mom looks after her kids.
Well, and I guess that's why you resonate so much with me, is because our whole eVision Media premise is based on nurturing and taking care of and looking after our clients from that branding and marketing perspective. And so I just love it that, you have that same kind of feeling towards your clients. It's not a money-making thing. It's about helping people. We see such a desperate need out there for help. And there's so many people who are trying to do everything all by themselves. And no wonder they're just in this state of overwhelm and confusion and not getting anywhere. They're not achieving their goals because they don't have those kind of support systems. So for you, the viewer, Lauren and I are here to help you and be that support system for you. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because I just hate it when people feel like they are so alone and they don't have any help and they feel like they can't afford it, but there's always a way to afford it. Yes. You just have to, know what the situation is.
I'm happy to offer a free consult to at least see what this looks like. I have quizzes. There's a lot of free resources. I'm happy to share my download with you. I even have a download, the seven tips to nonprofit success. I mean, there's all kinds of tools available out there. The challenge is that you can get overwhelmed with the tools. Exactly. And you may use them. And one of the things that I teach when I say stay in your lane, don't become a pocket lawyer. So don't download something on the internet that says, employment agreement. Yeah. And you find out that you're in Vancouver, right? Outside of Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay. So you download something and you find out that it was Ontario law. That's not really going to help you very much. And you didn't realize because you didn't know what clause to look for.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. Yeah.
Or you're dealing with an employee that isn't really an employee. They're independent and it's just a big mess. So one of my 7 tips is do not download random internet resources. And another one is about the working with professionals. So I compare the internet to the yellow pages of old, and people would pay, to get the triple A, whatever, quadruple A, right?
Yeah.
Right? Remember? And we're dating ourselves, but so they would open the yellow pages and be like, oh, great, that's at the front of the book. And it's the same now with Google AdWords or Facebook ads or whatever. And it's really about how much money do you have, so it's about quantity. It's not about how good you are, because we're not about the money.
Right.
So, I mean, everybody needs to make a living, certainly, but give us the opportunity to look under your hood and help you uncover those gaps so that you can scale and be successful and achieve your goals and really make more money, because that's our goal for you.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, it's almost like a catch-22, right? You try to do it yourself, it's going to be a long, arduous, probably non-profitable process. But if you invest early on in your business, then we can get you to that profitable stage and legally done correctly at a much quicker pace, and you can make much more money. Yeah. So just to tie up the last few things, we have systems or financial and accounting, systems and operations, and insurances and licenses. Those were the 3 other items in your 7 list. Do you have any tips about those items?
Definitely consult with a financial advisor to find out what's the right process and steps for you. Do not try to do your taxes yourself. Work with a CPA and a bookkeeper. Yeah. Operations and systems are so important. And you need to create policies and procedures that match or mesh with what you're doing day to day. And insurance, don't go bare. Get insurance. Make sure you have your licenses in place. Speak to professionals about this. I have professionals all over the world that can help you, and I'm sure you do as well. And it's really just a peace of mind because you love your business and you want your business to love you back. But if you don't give it the attention and care it deserves, it's like not nurturing a child, right? So you may love the child, but if you're not nurturing the child and you're not feeding the child and you're not caring for the child, then the child's going to go, unfulfilled, and there's going to be issues.
And I think that ties in nicely with one of the systems that you offer. It's called the Scale Up Checkup. And
Yes.
this sounds like a perfect next step for our viewers. Is now that you know what those 7 steps are, can you share a little bit, Lauren, about what is their next step now that they know what they need to know?
So I've created an amazing 3-step system: assess, diagnose, deliver. In the assessment phase, we have quizzes, the free quizzes, and an assessment that I built, an algorithm-driven assessment that I built last year. And it's super cool, and it will give you a first look at your business. And then the diagnosis component, it's phase 2. That's when we do a success plan for you and basically give you a prescription, a GPS, to fill the gaps that we uncover in more detail in the success plan diagnosis phase. And that's the second phase. That's $1,000, and it's a great way to build your business and see under the hood and have a strategic plan for your next steps. And then the third phase is delivery. So that's when we deliver on the prescription and fill the prescription as if you're getting your procedures done. And that's when we bring in the professionals to do the services that you need done and look and make sure that the uncovered gaps are addressed and resolved.
Well, that sounds perfect. So where can people go to take advantage of this?
So the best way to start working with me is by taking one of my quizzes. And the most fun quiz is showmethemoneyquiz.com. It's just like that, showmethemoneyquiz.com, and we'll put it in the feeder. Yeah. Also, you can look at my website, our landing page, scaleupcheckup.com/money. That'll tell you a little bit more about this. And also there should be a link to the brochure that we've created. Mm-hmm. You can find me on Facebook, Scale Up Checkup, and Lauren Cohen. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very big on LinkedIn. That's under Lauren Cohen, eCounsel Inc. And Twitter and Instagram and all those social media mediums. You can also reach me directly, Lauren@scaleupcheckup.com. All one word, Lauren@scaleupcheckup.com, or 866-724-0085. The beautiful thing is, if you take the quiz, you're going to love what you receive. It's free. So you get a full report and you get a link to my calendar, so you can have access to a free consult with me to figure out what we uncovered in the quiz and how we might be able to best serve your needs moving forward.
And I will make sure that all of those links and information that you just shared, Lauren, are accessible down below. And I gotta say, I love it that you are personally accessible. Like, you gave your personal email address, which I truly appreciate. And I know that my viewers will as well. You're not hiding behind this big corporate office with, a secretary, and everything has to get funneled through people. So you are directly accessible, just like I am. And I think that's, a really good thing to have, so that we can be that support system that people need from us.
Thank you. I'm accessible, I'm affordable, and I'm available, because that's really who I am. Instead of waiting in a queue, you do get access to me, and you get access to answers. And if I don't know them, we'll figure it out.
Awesome. And I love that's your mantra, because guess what ours is? We listen, we respond, we care. So it's like we were definitely made for each other. Thank you so much, Lauren. I so appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to share this so extremely valuable information with our viewers on helping them build their business on a very strong foundation. I just can't emphasize enough how important this information is. And so I do hope you as a viewer go and check out Lauren and take her quiz and at least find out where your gaps are, so that you know what you need to know in order to create that sustainable and profitable business. So thanks again, Lauren. I so appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Susan. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you, viewer. And hey, if you really enjoyed and thought that this information was really valuable, and if you know of somebody who you think really needs to hear this, either tag them in the comments or share this to your social media followers, and go ahead and hit subscribe too if you're watching this on YouTube, just so that you can stay abreast of upcoming shows and videos that we're going to be doing. I have a feeling I'm going to have Lauren on in subsequent shows, so stay tuned for that. And so that's it for today's show. I so appreciate you joining us. I so appreciate you, Lauren. And that's it for today. We'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.
Take care.